Hello, this is Barry Branton. In this video, what I'm doing is I am combining 4 elements. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. Okay? Part 1 is a video, it's a Section 1 of the CDL manual read-along. It's not very long, so you watch this video. That's Section 1. Now, Part 2 that you see here in blue it's really explaining why Section 2 is so important. So, it's a relatively short video, but it explains essentially, when compared to the other sections in the CDL manual, why Section 2 is so important. Okay. Now, Part 3 of this video, which you see is in green here, is a breakdown of all the questions. If you look in your manual in Section 2, you won't see questions in Section 1 or Section 3, but in Section 2, you'll see questions. So what I've done is I've gone over every one of these questions in Section 2. There's about 80 questions. And I've broken them down into these different groups here, A through J. And I provide the answers to those questions. Believe me, that is a big portion of the exam. The next part is Part 4. This is Section 3. This is a read-along section. It's relatively short. So, you should be able to get it pretty easily, excuse me. This is sort of an ad-lib speech here. So it's not perfect. I'm doing the best I can. So the idea here is you watch this video, and when you go take the test, you should pass, okay, because there's everything you need. If you look in Figure 1.2 in Section 1, it gives you everything that you need to study to pass your written test for the General Knowledge Exam. So this is it. Now, what I suggest is as a to help reinforce your knowledge, watch one of my other General Knowledge Exam question practice videos. But I believe this is all you'll need. Just watch Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4, and you should be good to go. Now, if you look in the video description, I'll have it broken down with time codes to Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. So whichever one you want to go to first, that's not a problem. So I hope this works out. I hope everything is good, and let me know what you think. All right, thank you so much, and take care.
Section 1, Introduction. This section covers commercial driver license tests, driver disqualifications, other safety rules. There is a federal requirement that each state have minimum standards for the licensing of commercial drivers. This manual provides driver license testing information for drivers who wish to have a commercial driver license, CDL. This manual does not provide information on all the federal and state requirements needed before you can drive a commercial motor vehicle, CMV. You may have to contact your state driver licensing authority for additional information. You must have a CDL to operate a single vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating or gross vehicle weight of 26,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater. A combination vehicle with a gross combination weight rating or gross combination weight of 26,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater, provided the towed unit has a gross vehicle weight rating or gross vehicle weight of 10,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater. a vehicle designed to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver. Any size vehicle that requires hazardous material placards or is carrying material listed as a select agent or toxin in 42 CFR Part 7.3. Federal regulations through the Department of Homeland Security require a background check and fingerprinting for the hazardous materials endorsement. Contact your local Department of Driver Licensing for more information. Your state may have additional definitions of CMVs. To get a CDL, you must pass knowledge and skills tests. This manual will help you pass the tests. This manual is not a substitute for a truck driver training class or program. Formal training is the most reliable way to learn the many special skills required for safely driving a large commercial vehicle and becoming a professional driver in the trucking industry. Figure 1.1 helps you determine if you need a CDL. Chart on page 1-1, Figure 1.1. Does the vehicle or combination of vehicles have a manufacturer's weight rating, GVWR, over 26,000 pounds? No. Is the vehicle designed to carry 16 or more people, including the driver? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. Does the vehicle require hazardous material placards or transport a select agent or toxin? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. You do not need a CDL. Does the vehicle or combination of vehicles have a manufacturer's weight rating, GVWR, over 26,000 pounds? Yes. Is the vehicle a combination vehicle towing a unit over 10,000 pounds GVWR? Yes. You need a Class A CDL. No. Does the single vehicle have a GVWR over 26,000 pounds? Yes. You need a Class B CDL. No. Is the vehicle designed to carry 16 or more people, including the driver? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. Does the vehicle require hazardous material placards or transport a select agent or toxin? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. You do not need a CDL. Note, a bus may be a Class A, B, or C depending on whether the GVWR is over 26,001 pounds or is a combination vehicle. Continuing with the text. 1.1 Commercial Driver License Tests. 1.1.1 Knowledge Tests. You will have to take one or more knowledge tests depending on what class of license and what endorsements you need. The CDL knowledge tests include the General Knowledge Test taken by all applicants, the Passenger Transport Test taken by all bus driver applicants, the Air Brakes Test, which you must take if your vehicle has air brakes, including air over hydraulic brakes, the Combination Vehicles Test, which is required if you want to drive combination vehicles, the Hazardous Materials Test, required if you want to haul hazardous materials or waste in amounts that require placarding, or any quantity of a material listed as a select agent or toxin in 42 CFR 7.3. The Tanker Test, required if you want to haul a liquid or liquid gas in a tank or tanks rated more than 119 gallons and an aggregate capacity of 1,000 gallons or more. The Doubles and Triples Test, required if you want to pull double or triple trailers. The School Bus Test, required if you want to drive a school bus. 1.1.2 Skills Tests. If you pass the required knowledge test or tests and hold the Commercial Learner's Permit a minimum of 14 days, you can take the CDL skills tests. There are 3 types of general skills that will be tested: pre-trip inspection, basic vehicle control, and on-road driving. You must take these tests in the type of vehicle for which you wish to be licensed. Pre-trip vehicle inspection. You will be tested to see if you know whether your vehicle is safe to drive. You will be asked to do a pre-trip inspection of your vehicle and explain to the examiner what you would expect and why. Any vehicle that has components marked or labeled cannot be used for the pre-trip inspection test. Basic vehicle control. You will be tested on your skill to control the vehicle. You will be asked to move your vehicle forward, backward, and turn it within a defined area. These areas may be marked with traffic lanes, cones, barriers, or something similar. The examiner will tell you how each control test is to be done. On-road test. You will be tested on your skill to safely drive your vehicle in a variety of traffic situations. The situations may include left and right turns, intersections, railroad crossings, curves, up and down grades, single or multi-lane roads, streets, or highways. The examiner will tell you where to drive. Figure 1.2 details which sections of this manual you should study for each particular class of license and for each endorsement. Table on page 1-2, figure 1.2. What sections should you study? License type, Class A. Sections to study, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13. License type, Class B. Sections to study, 1, 2, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13. License type, Class C. Sections to study, 1, 2, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement. Hazardous materials. Sections to study, 9, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement. Double and triple. Sections to study, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Endorsement. Tank vehicles. Sections to study, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. Endorsement. Passenger. Sections to study, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement. School bus. Sections to study, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Footnote. Study Section 5 if you plan to operate vehicles equipped with air brakes. Continuing with the text. 1.2 CDL Disqualifications. 1.2.1 General. You may not drive a commercial motor vehicle if you are disqualified for any reason. 1.2.2 Alcohol, leaving the scene of an accident, and commission of a felony. It is illegal to operate a CMV if your blood alcohol concentration, BAC, is 0.4% or more. If you operate a CMV, you shall be deemed to have given your consent to alcohol testing. You will lose your CDL for at least 1 year for a first offense for driving a CMV if your blood alcohol concentration is 0.4% or higher, driving a CMV under the influence of alcohol or drugs, refusing to undergo blood alcohol testing, driving a CMV while under the influence of a controlled substance, leaving the scene of an accident involving a CMV, committing a felony involving the use of a CMV, driving a CMV when the CDL is suspended, causing a fatality through negligent operation of a CMV. You will lose your CDL for at least 3 years if the offense occurs while you are operating a CMV that is placarded for hazardous materials. You will lose your CDL for life for a second offense or subsequent major offense. You will lose your CDL for life if you use a CMV to commit a felony involving controlled substances. You will be put out of service for 24 hours if you have any detectable amount of alcohol under 0.04%. You will lose your CDL for at least 60 days for providing false information related to the issuance of a commercial permit or commercial license. You will lose your CDL for at least 1 year if convicted of fraud related to the issuance of a commercial permit or commercial license. 1.2.3 Serious traffic violations. Serious traffic violations are excessive speeding, 15 mph or more above the posted limit, reckless driving, improper or erratic lane changes, following a vehicle too closely, and traffic offenses committed in a CMV in connection with fatal traffic accidents, driving a CMV without obtaining a CDL or having a CDL in the driver's possession, driving a CMV without the proper class of CDL and/or endorsements, texting while driving, and using a handheld mobile telephone while driving. You will lose your CDL For at least 60 days if you have committed 2 serious traffic violations within a 3-year period involving a CMV. For at least 120 days for 3 serious traffic violations within a 3-year period involving a CMV. 1.2.4 Violation of out-of-service orders. You will lose your CDL for 180 days if you have committed your first violation of an out-of-service order. For 2 years if you have committed 2 violations of an out-of-service order in a 10-year period. For 3 years if you have committed 3 or more violations of an out-of-service order in a 10-year period. 1.2.5 Railroad highway grade crossing violations. You will lose your CDL for at least 60 days for your first violation. For at least 120 days for your second violation within any 3-year period. For at least 1 year for your third violation within any 3-year period. These violations include violation of a federal, state, or local law or regulation pertaining to one of the following 6 offenses at a railroad highway grade crossing. For drivers who are not required to always stop, failing to stop before reaching the crossing if the tracks are not clear. For drivers who are not required to always stop, failing to slow down and to check that the tracks are clear of an approaching train. For drivers who are always required to stop, failing to stop before driving onto the crossing. For all drivers, failing to have sufficient space to drive completely through the crossing without stopping. For all drivers, failing to obey a traffic control device or the directions of an enforcement official at the crossing. For all drivers failing to negotiate a crossing because of insufficient undercarriage clearance. 1.2.6 Hazardous Materials Endorsement, Background Check, and Disqualifications. If you require a hazardous materials endorsement, you will be required to submit your fingerprints and be subject to a background check. You will be denied or you will lose your hazardous materials endorsement if you are not a lawful permanent resident of the United States, renounce your United States citizenship, are wanted or under indictment for certain felonies, have a conviction in military or civilian court for certain felonies, have been adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution, are considered to pose a security threat as determined by the Transportation Security Administration. 1.2.7 Traffic violations in your personal vehicle. The Motor Carrier Safety Improvement Act, MCSIA, of 1999 requires a CDL holder to be disqualified from operating a commercial motor vehicle if the CDL holder has been convicted of certain types of moving violations in their personal vehicle. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended due to violations of traffic control laws, other than parking violations, you will also lose your CDL privileges. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended due to alcohol, controlled substance, or felony violations, you will lose your CDL for 1 year. If you are convicted of a second violation in your personal vehicle or CMV, you will lose your CDL for life. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended, you may not obtain a hardship license to operate a CMV. 1.3 Other CDL Rules. There are other federal and state rules that affect drivers operating CMVs in all states. Among them are, you cannot have more than 1 license. If you break this rule, a court may fine you up to $5,000 or put you in jail and keep your home state license and return any others. You must notify your employer within 30 days of conviction for any traffic violations except parking. This is true no matter what type of vehicle you are driving. You must notify your motor vehicle licensing agency within 30 days if you are convicted in any other jurisdiction of any traffic violation except parking. This is true no matter what type of vehicle you are driving. You must notify your employer if your license is suspended, revoked, or canceled, or if you are disqualified from driving. You must give your employer information on all driving jobs you have held for the past 10 years. You must do this when you apply for a commercial driving job. No one can drive a commercial motor vehicle without a CDL. A court may fine you up to $5,000 or put you in jail for breaking this rule. If you have a hazardous materials endorsement, you must notify and surrender your hazardous materials endorsement to the state that issued your CDL within 24 hours of any conviction or indictment in any jurisdiction, civilian or military, for or found not guilty by reason of insanity of a disqualifying crime listed in 49 CFR 1572.103, who is adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution as specified in 49 CFR 1572.109, or who renounces his or her U.S. citizenship. Your employer may not let you drive a commercial motor vehicle if you have more than one license or if your CDL is suspended or revoked. A court may fine the employer up to $5,000 or put him or her in jail for breaking this rule. All states are connected to one computerized system to share information about CDL drivers. The states will check on drivers' accident records and be sure that drivers do not have more than one CDL. You must be properly restrained by a seatbelt at all times when operating a commercial motor vehicle. The seatbelt design holds the driver securely behind the wheel during a crash, helping the driver to control the vehicle, and reduces the chance of serious injury or death. If you do not wear a seatbelt, you are 4 times more likely to be fatally injured if you are thrown from the vehicle. Your state may have additional rules that you must also obey. 1.4. International Registration Plan, International Fuel Tax Agreement. If you operate a CDL-required vehicle in interstate commerce, the vehicle, with few exceptions, is required to be registered under the International Registration Plan, IRP, and the International Fuel Tax Agreement, IFTA. These federally mandated programs provide for the equitable collection and distribution of vehicle license fees and motor fuels taxes for vehicles traveling throughout the 48 contiguous United States and 10 Canadian provinces. Under the IRP, jurisdictions must register apportioned vehicles, which includes issuing license plates and cab cards or proper credentials, calculate, collect, and distribute IRP fees, audit carriers for accuracy of reported distance and fees, and enforce IRP requirements. Registrant responsibilities under the plan include applying for IRP registration with base jurisdiction, providing proper documentation for registration, paying appropriate IRP registration fees, properly displaying registration credentials, maintaining accurate distance records, and making records available for jurisdiction review. The basic concept behind IFTA is to allow a licensee, motor carrier, to license in a base jurisdiction for the reporting and payment of motor fuel use taxes. Under the IFTA, a licensee is issued one set of credentials, which will authorize operations through all IFTA member jurisdictions. The fuel use taxes collected pursuant to the IFTA are calculated based on the number of miles or kilometers traveled and the number of gallons or liters consumed in the member jurisdictions. The licensee files one quarterly tax return with the base jurisdiction, by which the licensee will report all operations through all IFTA member jurisdictions. It is the base jurisdiction's responsibility to remit the taxes collected to other member jurisdictions and to represent the other member jurisdictions in the tax collection process, including the performance of audits. An IFTA licensee must retain records to support the information reported on the IFTA quarterly tax return. The IRP registrant and the IFTA licensee may be the vehicle owner or the vehicle operator. The requirement for acquiring IRP plates for a vehicle and IFT license for a motor carrier is determined by the definitions from the IRP plan and the IFTA for qualified vehicle and qualified motor vehicle. For purposes of IRP, a qualified vehicle is, except as provided below, any power unit that is used or intended for use in 2 or more member jurisdictions and that is used for the transportation of persons for hire or designed, used, or maintained primarily for the transportation of property, and has 2 axles and a gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight in excess of 26,000 pounds, 11,793.401 kilograms, or has 3 or more axles regardless of weight, or is used in combination, where the gross vehicle weight of such combination exceeds 26,000 pounds, 11,793.401 kilograms. While similar, the qualified motor vehicle in IFTA means a motor vehicle used, designed, or maintained for transportation of persons or property and having 2 axles and a gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight exceeding 26,000 pounds or 11,797 kilograms, or having 3 or more axles regardless of weight, or is used in combination when the weight of such combination exceeds 26,000 pounds or 11,797 kilograms, gross vehicle or registered gross vehicle weight. Qualified motor vehicle does not include recreational vehicles. If the vehicle you operate is registered under IRP and you are a motor carrier licensed under IFTA, then you are required to comply with the mandatory record-keeping requirements for operating the vehicle. A universally accepted method of capturing this information is through the completion of an individual vehicle distance record, IVDR, sometimes referred to as a driver trip report. This document reflects the distance traveled and fuel purchased for a vehicle that operates interstate under apportioned IRP registration and IFTA fuel tax credentials. Although the actual format of the IVDR may vary, the information that is required for proper record keeping does not. In order to satisfy the requirements for individual vehicle distance records, these documents must include the following information: distance, per Article 4 of the IRP plan, date of trip, starting and ending, trip origin and destination, city and state or province, route or routes of travel, beginning and ending odometer or hubdometer reading of the trip, total distance traveled, in jurisdiction distance, power unit number or vehicle identification number. Fuel, per Section P560 of the IFTA Procedures Manual, .300, an acceptable receipt or invoice must include but shall not be limited to the following: .005, date of purchase, .010, seller's name and address, .015, number of gallons or liters purchased, .020, fuel type, .025, price per gallon or liter or total amount of sale, .030, unit number or other unique vehicle identifier, .035, purchaser's name. An example of an IVDR that must be completed in its entirety for each trip can be found in Figure 1.3 below. Figure 1.3 appears on page 1-6, continuing with the text. Each individual IVDR should be filled out for only one vehicle. The rules to follow when trying to determine how and when to log an odometer reading are the following: at the beginning of the day, when leaving the state or province, at the end of the trip or day. Not only do the trips need to be logged, but the fuel purchases need to be documented as well. You must obtain a receipt for all fueling and include it with your completed IVDR. Make sure that any trips that you enter are always filled out in descending order and that your trips include all states and provinces that you traveled through on your route. There are different routes that a driver may take, and most of the miles may be within one state or province. Whether or not the distance you travel is primarily in one jurisdiction or spread among several jurisdictions, all information for the trip must be recorded. This includes the dates, the routes, odometer readings, and fuel purchases. By completing this document in full and keeping all records required by both the IRP and the IFTA, you will have ensured that you and your company are in compliance with all state and provincial laws surrounding fuel and distance record keeping requirements. The IVDR serves as the source document for the calculation of fees and taxes that are payable to the jurisdictions in which the vehicle is operated, so these original records must be maintained for a minimum of 4 years. In addition, these records are subject to audit by the taxing jurisdictions. Failure to maintain complete and accurate records could result in fines, penalties, and suspension or revocation of IRP registrations and IFTA licenses. For additional information on the IRP and the requirements related to the IRP, contact your base jurisdiction motor vehicle department or IRP Incorporated, the official repository for the IRP. Additional information can be found on the IRP Incorporated website at www.irponline.org. There is a training video on the website homepage available in English, Spanish, and French. For additional information on IFTA and the requirements related to IFTA, contact the appropriate agency in your base jurisdiction. You will also find useful information about the agreement at the official repository of IFTA at http://www.iftachch.org/index.phpg. Illustration on page 1-6, Figure 1.3, Individual Vehicle Mileage and Fuel Record. Example.
Hello. I've been doing some research on the relative size of each individual section in the CDL manual, and one thing that strikes me is how large Section 2 is. You can see by the graphic here that Section 2, which is driving safely, has about 23 subsections, which is quite a lot. If you compare that to the other sections in the CDL manual, the largest one that we have here is next to that would be Section 9, which apparently only has 8 subsections in it. But Section 2, which is 23 sections, is the driving safely section. And we can take a look at what's in this section. And it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of material. Driving safely. So here's what it covers. That this is quite a large section, many pages. So what my conclusion is that to obtain your or to pass your general knowledge exam. And someone once asked me, is there any difference between the Class A and Class B as far as the general knowledge exam is concerned? And actually it is, because if you look here, it says Class A. Class A also includes, for the general knowledge, it includes Section 6, whereas Class B and C doesn't. So for your written part, for the general knowledge, depending on the class, I think you're okay if you're just starting out for the written part, studying Section 1, 2, and 3. But most of that is going to be Section 2. That's the main thing. So if you study these sections here, these first 3 sections, if you're getting an A or B, if you're going to be getting an A, Class A, then you need to study Section 6, this one here. Well, that's Section 5. Section 6. Wait, this is right here. Yeah, I was right. Section 6. Here's the section number right here. And of course, you're going to have, if you're driving a Class A, you're also going to need the air brakes. And then also, when you do the road, I guess the road test, the basic vehicle controls, and the vehicle inspection, you're going to need to know these sections here, section 11, 12, and 13. So, but the main one is, the main section to study is section 2. And you also have section 2 in your endorsements also. So that's the main thing I want to point out is this section 2 right here. This is the big thing to study. Section 2, 23 subsections, and I'm working on essentially getting a spreadsheet of all the sections, of all the subsection headings and the individual subsections. I'm going to graph these out so you can get a more exact representation of essentially why is the section 2 so large, so much content. Driving safely is very important. So that's mainly the main thing I wanted to communicate to you, the importance of studying section 2, and that's why I've gone over section 2 with so much detail, covering the questions. I'm going to have a section on, or a video series on going over the actual contents in section 2. We called section 2 read along. So I'm working on that, and so I want to wish you very best, and thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. The CDL Manual, study presentation by Barry Branton. Section 2, Driving Safely. CDL Manual, Section 2, Driving Safely. This section contains knowledge and safe driving information that all commercial drivers should know. You must pass a test on this information to get a CDL. This section does not have specific information on air brakes, combination vehicles, doubles, or passenger vehicles. When preparing for the vehicle inspection test, you must review the material in section 11, in addition to the information in this section. This section does have basic information on hazardous materials, hazmat, that all drivers should know. If you need a hazmat endorsement, you should study section 9. Section 2 has a total of 10 question groups, covering 23 subsections. The total number of questions in this section is 67. The average number of questions per question group is 7. Group A, 11 questions. This is section 2.1, Vehicle Inspection. What is the most important reason for doing a vehicle inspection? Safety is the most important reason you inspect your vehicle. Safety for yourself and for other road users. Finding a vehicle defect during an inspection could save you problems later. What things should you check during a trip? You should check instruments, air pressure gauge if you have air brakes, temperature and pressure gauges, ammeter and voltmeter, mirrors, tires, cargo, cargo covers, and lights. If you see, hear, smell, or feel anything that might mean trouble, check it out. Name some key steering system parts. Steering wheel, steering shaft, gearbox, hydraulic fluid reservoir, power steering cylinder, tie rod, steering arm, pitman arm, drag link, steering knuckle and spindle. Name some suspension system defects. Missing or broken leaves in any leaf spring. If 1/4 or more are missing, it will put the vehicle in out of service, but any defect could be dangerous. Broken leaves in a multi-leaf spring or leaves that have been shifted so they might hit the tire or other parts. Leaking shock absorbers, torque rod or arm, U-bolts, spring hangers, or other axle positioning parts that are cracked, damaged, or missing. Air suspension systems that are damaged or leaking. Any loose, cracked, broken, or missing frame members. What 3 kinds of emergency equipment must you have? Fire extinguisher. Spare electrical fuses, unless equipped with circuit breakers. Warning devices for parked vehicles. For example, 3 reflective warning triangles, or 6 fuses, or 3 liquid burning flares. Optional items may include chains, where winter conditions require them, tire changing equipment, list of emergency phone numbers, and an accident reporting kit or packet. What is the minimum tread depth for front tires? For other tires, you need at least 4 32nd-inch tread depth in every groove on front tires. You need 2 32nd-inch on other tires. Name some things you should check on the front of your vehicle during the walk-around inspection. Door and passenger door glass should be clean. Door latches or locks should work properly. Continued. Condition of wheels and rims. Missing, bent, broken studs, clamps, lugs, or any signs of misalignment. Condition of tires. Properly inflated. Valve stem and cap okay. No serious cuts, bulges, or tread wear. Use wrench to test rust-streaked lug nuts, indicating looseness. Hub oil level okay, no leaks. Continued. Condition of spring. This is for the front suspension. Spring hangers, shackles, U-bolts, shock absorber condition. Continued. Front brakes. Condition of brake drums or discs. Brake pad has at least 1/4 inch of material. Condition of brake shoe. Condition of hoses. Continued. Front. Condition of front axle. Condition of steering system, No loose, worn, bent, damaged, or missing parts. Must grab steering mechanism to test for looseness. Continued. Condition of windshield. Check for damage and clean if dirty. Check windshield wiper arms for proper spring tension. Check wiper blades for damage, stiff rubber, and securement. Continued. Lights and reflectors. Parking, clearance, and identification lights clean, operating, and proper color, amber at front. Reflectors clean and proper color, amber at front. Front turn signal lights clean, operating, and proper color, amber or white on signal facing forward. What should wheel bearing seals be checked for? To make sure that they are not cut, damaged, or loose, and visually see that they are not leaking fluid. How many red reflective triangles should you carry? A commercial driver must carry 3 reflective triangles in his truck at all times. How do you test hydraulic brakes for leaks? Pump the brake pedal 3 times, then apply firm pressure to the pedal and hold it for 5 seconds. The pedal should not move. If it does, there might be a leak or other problems. Why put the starter switch key in your pocket during the vehicle inspection? The driver should keep the starter key on his person while performing the pre-trip inspection so that no one can start the engine while the vehicle inspection is being performed. Question Group B. 8 questions. Covering sections 2.2, Basic Control of your vehicle, and 2.3, Shifting gears. Why should you back toward the driver's side? So you can see better. Backing toward the right side is very dangerous because you can't see as well. If stopped on a hill, how can you start moving without rolling back? For manual transmission, partly engage the clutch before you take your right foot off of the brake, or put the parking brake on whenever necessary to keep you from rolling back. On a tractor trailer equipped with a trailer handbrake valve, the hand valve can be applied to keep from rolling back. When backing, why is it important to use a helper? There are blind spots that you can't see. What's the most important hand signal that you and the helper should agree on? Stop. What are 2 special conditions where you should downshift? before entering the curve, before starting down a hill. When should you downshift automatic transmissions? You can select a low range to get greater engine braking when going down downgrades. Also pay attention. Some vehicles have automatic transmissions. You can select a low range to get greater engine braking when going down grades. The lower range prevents the transmission from shifting up beyond the selected gear, unless the governor RPM is exceeded. It is very important to use this braking effect when going downgrade. Retarders keep you from skidding when the road is slippery. True or false? False. Retarders help slow a vehicle, reducing the need for using your brakes. When you drive, wheels have poor traction. The retarders may cause them to skid. Therefore, you should turn the retarders off whenever the road is wet, icy, or snow-covered. What are 2 ways to know when to shift? Use engine speed. Watch your tachometer and shift up when the engine reaches the top of the range for your engine. Question Group C, 10 questions, covering sections 2.4, Seeing, 2.5, Communicating, and 2.6, Controlling your speed. How far ahead does the manual say you should look? The manual indicates that you should look 12 to 15 seconds ahead, which means that this is the distance you would travel in 12 to 15 seconds. At a slower speed, that would be about a block. At highway speeds, it's about a quarter of a mile. What are 2 main things to look for ahead? Look for traffic, vehicles coming onto the highway, into your lane, or turning. Watch for brake lights from slowing vehicles. Look for road conditions. Look for hills and curves. Anything you'll have to slow or change lanes for. Pay attention to traffic signals and signs. Watch for stale green lights that may change before you get there. What's your most important way to see the sides and rear of your vehicle? Mirrors. Mirrors help you see the sides and rear of your vehicle. What does communicating mean in safe driving? It means signaling your intentions. Where should you place reflectors when stopped on a divided highway? All to the rear of the vehicle, at 10 feet, 100 feet, and 200 feet, towards the approaching traffic. Traffic is approaching your vehicle from the rear. This rule also applies for one-way streets. What 3 things add up to total stopping distance. 1. Perception distance. 2. Reaction distance. And 3. Braking distance. If you go twice as fast, your stopping distance increases by 2 or 4 times. Answer: 4 times. The preceding answer is true for speeds from 20 to 40 miles per hour. Stopping distance under the paragraph heading. The effects of speed on stopping distance, which states when you double your speed from 20 to 40 miles per hour, the impact is 4 times greater. The braking distance is also 4 times longer. Keep in mind, the greater the speed, the greater the effect. Empty trucks have the best braking. True or false? False. Empty trucks require greater stopping distance because an empty vehicle has less traction. It can bounce and lock up its wheels, giving much poorer braking. Stopping distance under the paragraph heading, the effect of vehicle weight on stopping distance, which states empty trucks require greater stopping distance because an empty vehicle has less traction. The reason for that is because empty trucks don't have as much weight on the tires as loaded trucks have on them. For trucks, more weight within reason on the tires equals better traction. What is hydroplaning? Hydroplaning, which is comparable to your tires water skiing, happens when the tires lose their contact with the road and have little or no traction. You can regain control by releasing the accelerator and pushing in the clutch. What is black ice? Black ice is a thin layer that is clear enough that you can see the road underneath it. It makes the road look wet. At any time the temperature is below freezing and the road looks wet, watch out for black ice. Question Group D. 6 questions covering sections 2.7, Managing Space, and 2.8, Seeing Hazards. How do you find out how many seconds of following distance space you have? Wait until the vehicle ahead passes and count off the seconds like this: 1001, 1002, and so on, until you reach the same spot. Keep at least 4 seconds for 40-foot truck and 5 seconds if you are going over 40 miles per hour. If you are driving a 30-foot vehicle at 55 miles per hour, how many seconds of following distance should you allow? Allow at least 4 seconds. You should decrease your following distance if somebody is following too closely. True or false? False. Increase your following distance. Opening up room in front of you will help you to avoid having to make sudden speed or direction changes. It also makes it easier for the tailgater to get around you. If you swing wide to the left before turning right, another driver may try to pass you on the right. True or false? True. What is a hazard? A hazard is any road condition or other road user, driver, bicyclist, pedestrian, that is a possible danger. Why make emergency plans when you see a hazard? Being prepared will reduce the danger. Always have a plan. You look for the hazards in order to have time to plan a way out of any emergency. When you see a hazard, think about the emergencies that could develop and figure out what you would do. Always be prepared to take action based on your plans. Question Group E. 6 questions. Covering sections 2.9, Distracted Driving, and 2.10, Aggressive Drivers, Road Rage. What are some tips to follow so you won't become a distracted driver? Turn off all communication devices. Do not text or read text messages while driving. Familiarize yourself with your vehicle's features, equipment, and before you get behind the wheel, adjust all vehicle controls and mirrors to your preference prior to driving. Pre-program radio stations and preload your favorite CDs. Clear the vehicle of any unnecessary objects, and secure cargo, etc. How do you use in-vehicle communications equipment cautiously? Assessing all potential in-vehicle distractions before driving, developing a preventive plan to reduce or eliminate possible distractions, expecting distractions to occur, and discussing possible scenarios before getting behind the wheel. How do you recognize a distracted driver? Vehicles may drift over the lane divider lines or within their own lanes. Cars traveling at inconsistent speeds, drivers preoccupied with maps, food, and cigarettes, cell phones, or other objects, drivers who appear to be involved in conversations with their passengers. What is the difference between aggressive driving and road rage? Aggressive driving is the act of operating a car in a selfish, bold, or pushy manner without regard for the rights or safety of others. Road rage is operating a motor vehicle with the intent of doing harm to others or physically assaulting a driver or their vehicle. What should you do when confronted with an aggressive driver? Get out of his way. Put your pride in the back seat. Don't challenge him by speeding up. Avoid eye contact. Ignore gestures. And refuse to react to him. Report aggressive drivers to the authorities. What are some things you can do to reduce your stress before and while you drive? Listen to easy listening music. Give the drive your full attention. Be realistic about your travel time. If you're going to be later than expected, deal with it. Give other drivers the benefit of the doubt. Slow down and keep your following distance reasonable. Don't drive too slowly in the left lane of traffic. Avoid gestures. Be a cautious and courteous driver. Group F, 5 questions, covering sections 2.11, Driving at Night, 2.12, Driving in Fog, 2.13, Driving in Winter, and 2.14, Driving in Very Hot Weather. You should use your low beams whenever you can. True or false? False. Use high beams when you can. Some drivers make the mistake of always using low beams. This can seriously cut down on their ability to see ahead. Use high beams when it is safe and legal to do so. Use them when you are not within 500 feet of an approaching vehicle. What should you do before you drive if you are drowsy? If you are drowsy, sleep before you drive. Even a nap can save your life or the lives of others. What effects can wet brakes cause? How can you avoid these problems? When driving in heavy rain or deep standing water, your brakes will get wet. Water in the brakes can cause the brakes to be weak, to apply unevenly, or to grab. This can cause lack of braking power, wheel lockups, pulling to one side or the other, and jackknife if you pull a trailer. Avoid driving through deep puddles or flowing water, if possible. If not, you should slow down. Place the transmission in low gear and gently put on your brakes. This presses linings against brake drums or discs and keeps mud, silt, sand, and water from getting in. Increase engine RPMs and cross the water while keeping light pressure on the brakes. When out of water, maintain light pressure on the brakes for a short distance to heat them up and dry them out. Make a test stop when safe to do so. Check behind to make sure no one is following, and then apply the brakes to be sure they work well. If not, dry them out further as described above. Caution: do not apply too much brake pressure and depress the accelerator at the same time, or you can overheat the brake drums and lining. You should let air out of hot tires so the pressure goes back to normal. True or false? False. Air pressure increases with temperature. Do not let air out, or the pressure will be too low when the tires cool off. If a tire is too hot to touch, remain stopped until the tire cools off. Otherwise, the tire may blow out or catch fire. Can you safely remove the radiator cap as long as the engine isn't overheated? What constitutes an overheated engine? What if the engine hasn't overheated but is just hot? The CDL manual states, never remove the radiator cap or any part of the pressurized system until the system has cooled. Steam and boiling water can spray under pressure and cause severe burns. If you can touch the radiator cap with your bare hand, it is probably cool enough to open. Question Group G, 5 questions. Covering Sections 2.15, Railroad Highway Crossings, and 2.16, Mountain Driving. What factors determine your selection of a safe speed when going down a long, steep downgrade? Your most important consideration is to select a speed that is not too fast for the total weight of your vehicle and cargo, the length of the grade, the steepness of the grade, the road conditions, and the weather. Why should you be in the proper gear before starting down a hill? You want to be in the proper gear before going down a hill, because if you try to shift gears when you are driving on the downgrade, you might get locked out of engaging any gear and will lose all engine braking capability. Describe the proper braking technique when going down a long, steep downgrade. The use of brakes on a long or steep downgrade is only a supplement to the braking effect of the engine. Once the vehicle is in the proper low gear, the following are the proper braking techniques. Apply the brakes just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. When your speed has been reduced to approximately 5 miles per hour below your safe speed, release the brakes. This brake application should last for about 3 seconds. When your speed has increased to your safe speed, repeat steps 1 and 2. For example, if your speed is 40 miles per hour, you would not apply the brakes until your speed reached 40 miles per hour. You now apply the brakes hard enough
to gradually reduce your speed to 35 miles per hour, and then release the brakes. Repeat this as often as necessary until you have reached the end of the downgrade. What type of vehicle can get stuck on a railroad highway crossing? Be aware, these trailers can get stuck on raised crossings, low-slung units, lowboy, car carrier, moving van, possum belly livestock trailer, single-axle tractor pulling a long trailer with its landing gear set to accommodate a tandem axle tractor. How long does it take for a typical tractor-trailer unit to clear a double track? It takes a typical tractor-trailer unit at least 14 seconds to clear a single track and more than 15 seconds to clear a double track. Question Group H, 7 questions, covering sections 2.17, Driving Emergencies, 2.18, Anti-Lock Braking Systems, ABS, and 2.19, Skid Control and Recovery. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. True or false? True. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. When you don't have enough room to stop, you may have to steer away from what's ahead. Remember, you can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. However, top-heavy vehicles and tractors with multiple trailers may flip over. What are some advantages to going right instead of left around an obstacle? If an oncoming driver has drifted into your lane, a move to your right is best. If that driver realizes what has happened, the natural response will be to return to his own lane. If the shoulder is clear, going right may be best. No one is likely to be driving on the shoulder, but someone may be passing you on the left. You will know if you have been using your mirrors. If you are blocked on both sides, a move to the right may be best. At least you won't force anyone into an opposing traffic lane and a possible head-on collision. What is an escape ramp? Escape ramps have been built on many steep mountain downgrades. Escape ramps are made to stop runaway vehicles safely without injuring drivers and passengers. Escape ramps use a long bed of loose, soft material to slow a runaway vehicle, sometimes in combination with an upgrade. If a tire blows out, you should put the brakes on hard to stop quickly. True or false? False. Stay off the brakes. It's natural to want to brake in an emergency. However, braking when a tire has failed can cause loss of control. Unless you're about to run into something, stay off the brakes until the vehicle has slowed down. Then brake very gently, pull off the road, and stop. How do you know if your vehicle has anti-lock brakes? Tractors, trucks, and buses will have yellow ABS malfunction lamps on the instrument panel. Trailers will have yellow ABS malfunction lamps on the left side, either on the front or rear corner. What is the proper braking technique when driving a vehicle with anti-lock brakes? Brake the same way, regardless of whether you have ABS on the bus, tractor, the trailer, or both. How do anti-lock brakes help you? Brake pressure is adjusted to provide the maximum braking without danger of lockup. ABS works far faster than the driver can respond to potential wheel lockup. At all other times, the brake system will operate normally. Question Group I. 5 questions covering sections 2.20 Accident Procedures and 2.21 Fires. What are some things to do at an accident scene to prevent another accident? Protect the area. Notify authorities. And care for the injured. Name 2 causes of tire fires. Underinflated tires and duals that touch. What kinds of fires is a BC extinguisher not good for? Wood, paper, and ordinary combustibles. Fires in combustible metals. Note: B extinguishers are for use on fires involving gasoline, oil, grease, or other greasy liquids, and C extinguishers are for use on electrical equipment fires. When using your extinguisher, should you get as close as possible to the fire? No. You should stay as far away as possible. Name some causes of vehicle fires. Spilled fuel, improper use of flares, flammable cargo. Question Group J. 4 questions. Covering sections 2.22, Alcohol, Other Drugs, and Driving, and 2.23, Hazardous Material Rules. Common medicines for colds can make you sleepy. True or false? True. Avoid medication. Many medicines can make you sleepy. Those that do have a label warning against operating vehicles or machinery. The most common medicine of this type is the ordinary cold pill. If you have to drive with a cold, you are better off suffering from the cold than from the effects of the medicine. Coffee and a little fresh air will help a drinker sober up. True or false? False. The liver can only process 1/3 of an ounce of alcohol per hour, which is considerably less than the alcohol in a standard drink. This is a fixed rate, so only time, not black coffee or a cold shower, will sober you up. What is a hazardous material placard? Placards are signs put on the outside of a vehicle that identify the hazardous class of the cargo. A placard vehicle must have at least 4 identical placards. They are put in front, rear, and both sides. Placards must be readable from all 4 directions. Why are placards used? The intent of the rule is to contain the product, communicate the risk, and ensure safe drivers and equipment.
Section 3. Transporting Cargo Safely. This section covers inspecting cargo, cargo weight and balance, securing cargo, cargo needing special attention. This section tells you about hauling cargo safely. You must understand basic cargo safety rules to get a CDL. If you load cargo wrong or do not secure it, it can be a danger to others and yourself. Loose cargo that falls off a vehicle can cause traffic problems, and others could be hurt or killed. Loose cargo could hurt or kill you during a quick stop or crash. Your vehicle could be damaged by an overload. Steering could be affected by how a vehicle is loaded, making it more difficult to control the vehicle. Whether or not you load and secure the cargo yourself, you are responsible for inspecting your cargo, recognizing overloads and poorly balanced weight, knowing your cargo is properly secured and does not obscure your view ahead or to the sides, knowing your cargo does not restrict your access to emergency equipment. If you intend to carry hazardous material that requires placards on your vehicle, you will also need to have a hazardous materials endorsement. Section 9 of this manual has the information you need to pass the hazardous materials test. 3.1. Inspecting cargo. As part of your pre-trip inspection, make sure the truck is not overloaded and the cargo is balanced and secured properly. After starting, Inspect the cargo and its securing devices again within the first 50 miles after beginning a trip. Make any adjustments needed. Recheck. Recheck the cargo and securing devices as often as necessary during a trip to keep the load secure. You need to inspect again after you have driven for 3 hours or 150 miles. After every break you take during driving. Federal, state, and local regulations for commercial vehicle weight, securing cargo, covering loads, and where you can drive large vehicles vary from place to place. Know the rules where you will be driving. 3.2. Weight and balance. You are responsible for not being overloaded. The following are some definitions of weight you should know. 3.2.1. Definitions you should know. Gross vehicle weight, GVW, the total weight of a single vehicle plus its load. Gross combination weight, GCW, the total weight of a powered unit plus trailer or trailers plus the cargo. Gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, the maximum GVW specified by the manufacturer for a single vehicle plus its load. Gross combination weight rating, GCWR, the maximum GCW specified by the manufacturer for a specific combination of vehicles plus its load. Axle weight, the weight transmitted to the ground by one axle or one set of axles. Tire load, the maximum safe weight a tire can carry at a specified pressure. This rating is stated on the side of each tire. Suspension systems. Suspension systems have a manufacturer's weight capacity rating. Coupling device capacity. Coupling devices are rated for the maximum weight they can pull and/or carry. 3.2.2. Legal weight limits. You must keep weights within legal limits. States have maximums for GVWs, GCWs, and axle weights. Often, maximum axle weights are set by a bridge formula. A bridge formula permits less maximum axle weight for axles that are closer together. This is to prevent overloading bridges and roadways. Overloading can have bad effects on steering, braking, and speed control. Overloaded trucks have to go very slowly on upgrades. Worse, they may gain too much speed on downgrades. Stopping distance increases. Brakes can fail when forced to work too hard. During bad weather or in mountains, it may not be safe to operate at legal maximum weights. Take this into account before driving. 3.2.3. Don't be top-heavy. The height of the vehicle's center of gravity is very important for safe handling. A high center of gravity, cargo piled up high or heavy cargo on top, means you are more likely to tip over. It is most dangerous in curves or if you have to swerve to avoid a hazard. It is very important to distribute the cargo so it is as low as possible. Put the heaviest parts of the cargo under the lightest parts. 3.2.4. Balance the weight. Poor weight balance can make vehicle handling unsafe. Too much weight on the steering axle can cause hard steering. It can damage the steering axle and tires. Underloaded front axles, caused by shifting weight too far to the rear, can make the steering axle weight too light to steer safely. Too little weight on the driving axles can cause poor traction. The drive wheels may spin easily. During bad weather, the truck may not be able to keep going. Weight that is loaded so there is a high center of gravity causes greater chance of rollover. On flatbed vehicles, there is also a greater chance that the load will shift to the side or fall off. See Figure 3.1. Illustration on page 3-2, Figure 3.1, Loading Cargo. Continuing with the text. 3.3, Securing Cargo. 3.3.1, Blocking and Bracing. Blocking is used in the front, back, and/or sides of a piece of cargo to keep it from sliding. Blocking is shaped to fit snugly against cargo. It is secured to the cargo deck to prevent cargo movement. Bracing is also used to prevent movement of cargo. Bracing goes from the upper part of the cargo to the floor and/or walls of the cargo compartment. 3.3.2 Cargo Tie-Down. On flatbed trailers or trailers without sides, cargo must be secured to keep it from shifting or falling off. In closed vans, tie-downs can also be important to prevent cargo shifting that may affect the handling of the vehicle. Tie-downs must be of the proper type and proper strength. Federal regulations require the aggregate working load limit of any securement system used to secure an article or group of articles against movement must be at least 1/2 times the weight of the article or group of articles. Proper tie-down equipment must be used, including ropes, straps, chains, and tensioning devices, winches, ratchets, clinching components. Tie-downs must be attached to the vehicle correctly: hooks, bolts, rails, rings. See Figure 3.2. Picture on page 3-2, Figure 3.2, tie-down devices. Cargo should have at least one tie-down for each 10 feet of cargo. Make sure you have enough tie-downs to meet this need. No matter how small the cargo is, there should be at least 2 tie-downs holding it. Continuing with the text. Cargo should have at least one tie-down for each 10 feet of cargo. Make sure you have enough tie-downs to meet this need. No matter how small the cargo, it should have at least 2 tie-downs. There are special requirements for securing various heavy pieces of metal. Find out what they are if you are to carry such loads. 3.3.3 Header boards. Front-end header boards, headache racks, protect you from your cargo in case of a crash or emergency stop. Make sure the front-end structure is in good condition. The front-end structure should block the forward movement of any cargo you carry. 3.3.4 Covering cargo. There are 2 basic reasons for covering cargo: to protect people from spilled cargo, to protect the cargo from weather. Spill protection is a safety requirement in many states. Be familiar with the laws in the states you drive in. You should look at your cargo covers in the mirrors from time to time while driving. A flapping cover can tear loose, uncovering the cargo, and possibly block your view or someone else's. 3.3.5 Sealed and containerized loads. Containerized loads generally are used when freight is carried part way by rail or ship. Delivery by truck occurs at the beginning and/or end of the journey. Some containers have their own tie-down devices or locks that attach directly to a special frame. Others have to be loaded onto flatbed trailers. They must be properly secured just like any other cargo. You cannot inspect sealed loads, but you should check that you don't exceed gross weight and axle weight limits. 3.4 Cargo needing special attention. 3.4.1 Dry bulk. Dry bulk tanks require special care because they have a high center of gravity and the load can shift. Be extremely cautious, slow and careful, going around curves and making sharp turns. 3.4.2 Hanging meat. Hanging meat, suspended beef, pork, lamb, in a refrigerated truck can be a very unstable load with a high center of gravity. Particular caution is needed on sharp curves, such as off-ramps and on-ramps. Go slowly. 3.4.3 Livestock. Livestock can move around in a trailer, causing unsafe handling. With less than a full load, use false bulkheads to keep livestock bunched together. Even when bunched, special care is necessary because livestock can lean on curves. This shifts the center of gravity and makes rollover more likely. 3.4.4 Oversized loads. Over-length, over-width, and/or overweight loads require special transit permits. Driving is usually limited to certain times. Special equipment may be necessary, such as wide load signs, flashing lights, flags, etc. Such loads may require a police escort or pilot vehicles bearing warning signs and/or flashing lights. These special loads require special driving care. Section 3. Test your knowledge. 1. What 4 things related to cargo are drivers responsible for? 2. How often must you stop while on the road to check your cargo? 3. How is gross combination weight rating different from gross combination weight? 4. Name 2 situations where legal maximum weights may not be safe. 5. What can happen if you don't have enough weight on the front axle? 6. What is the minimum number of tie-downs for any flatbed load? 7. What is the minimum number of tie-downs for a 20-foot load? 8. Name the 2 basic reasons for covering cargo on an open bed. 9. What must you check before transporting a sealed load? These questions may be on your test. If you can't answer them all, reread Section 3.